A very good evening to you from wherever you're watching us from, and a warm welcome to this Kivumbi 2022 special, a presidential town hall, the first of its kind in this election cycle. We are coming to you live from the Serena Hotel here in Nairobi, and this is an exclusive on KTN News, the most trusted news channel in the country. Tonight, the people take center stage. We have invited Kenyans from diverse sectors to engage with a candidate on his plans and promises for Kenyans.
Na bila shaka tutajadiliana kuhusu masuala mbalimbali, hususan gharama ya maisha. Kulingana na utafiti ambao umefanywa, kura ya maoni ya Wakenya, gharama ya maisha imeorodheshwa kuwa mojawapo ya masuala muhimu ambao wangependa yashughulikiwe na kiongozi atakayechaguliwa kuwa rais wa 5 wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Vile vile tutajadili masuala mengine ikiwemo elimu, afya, miundo msingi. Tutajadili masuala kuhusu vyombo vya habari, tutajadili masuala kuhusu siasa, sporti, sanaa, vijana, masuala ya jinsia, na ndio kikao ambacho tumeandaa hii leo na kushughulikia na kujibu masuala haya yote.
Barabara kabisa, yeah. Zubeda, and indeed our audience here has agreed to some ground rules throughout our engagement this evening. They will each have an opportunity to ask one question to the candidate. The question shall be short and precise. They shall address the candidate with respect. Throughout this engagement as well, there will be no cheering, jeering, or clapping. We have also gotten commitment from the candidate that because of the vast number of issues we will be discussing and canvassing this evening, he will stick to a 3-minute timeline to respond to those issues so that we can cover as much ground as possible tonight.
Na bila shaka mtazamaji, tunalegeza tu sheria hizo na masharti wakati huu ambapo tunamkaribisha ukumbini mpeperusha bendera ya urais kupitia tiketi ya UDA au Kenya Kwanza, Daktari William Samoei Ruto. Tumkaribisheni kwa makofi.
How are you?
Very good.
Habari yako?
Karibu sana.
Karibu
Hello.
sana.
How are you?
Karibu sana.
Very good. Asante. Good evening, good people.
Karibu sana mheshimiwa.
Asante sana.
And indeed, tonight our hashtag is Uliza Ruto KTN. And it is important to mention at this point that this is the first of 3 other presidential town halls in the pipeline. We will have Uliza Wajakoya KTN, Uliza Raila KTN, now Uliza Wahiga KTN. Indeed, KTN News has got you covered this election season the way only we can.
Naam, karibu sana mheshimiwa. Shukrani sana kwa kututengea muda wako. Kumbuka leo ni siku ya Kiswahili, tunasubiri manifesto ya Kiswahili. Kwa hivyo kuwa radhi kutumia lugha yoyote ambayo unaridhia, Kiswahili au Kiingereza, kwa sababu tutauliza maswali yote kwa lugha zote mbili. Asante sana kwa kuwa nasi hii leo.
Asante sana, na nashukuru pia kwa ninyi kunipatia nafasi.
Naam.
Niweze kuzungumza na hawa ndugu wa Kenya na wale wengine ambao hawako hapa.
Naam, bila shaka tuna wadau kutoka sekta mbalimbali watakuwa hili ni jukwaa lao kuuliza maswali, na swali ambalo limejitokeza pakubwa kupitia utafiti ambao tumeufanya, kura ya maoni ambayo tumefanya, zaidi ya 50% ya Wakenya kinachowatatiza sasa hivi ni gharama ya maisha. Wanasema atakayechaguliwa kuwa rais ni lazima ashughulikie gharama ya maisha. Haswa tumesikia katika kampeni zako ukizungumza kuhusu bei ya unga. Sijui kama ni chambo cha kisiasa, kwa sababu kila wakati wa siasa tunasikia wengi wakisema ni mimi nitapunguza gharama ya maisha. Iwapo sio chambo cha kisiasa, wewe je, utashughulikia vipi swala hili? Na kuambatanisha na swali ambalo naliuliza sasa hivi, naomba nimwalike Eustace Kiarie ambaye ni afisa mkuu mtendaji wa Kenya Organic Agriculture Network KOAN, ambaye anauliza swali kuhusiana na matumizi ya dawa za kunyunyizia mashamba katika kilimo.
Asante. Thank you, Your Excellency. The Kenya Kwanza Manifesto identifies agriculture as an important vehicle for future development, and it emphasizes on increasing productivity through access to seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, most of which are imported. How will you ensure food security using production systems that reduce dependency on imports of agricultural produce? And related to this is the whole issue of pesticide use. We have several studies have been undertaken, and they have found we have a lot of pesticide residues in the food that we eat. And some of those pesticides have been banned in other countries. They have been banned in the countries of origin. How will you protect Kenyans to ensure that whatever food we'll be eating will be safe? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The subject of cost of living is not even about the people who are talking about. It's a reality we live with every day. I was, for example, in Kenya, and one person stood up and said, that was on a day before yesterday, and he said, Mheshimiwa, the cost of unga has now exceeded the cost of the sufuria we are using to cook. You know, so it's real. And if we go back, why we have, as Kenya Kwanza, identified agriculture as the place where we can not only reduce the cost of living, but we can also increase incomes, and we can also facilitate agro-processing, value addition, and the whole value chain of manufacturing, is because agriculture has very quick returns. In fact, if we were to deal with matters to do with inputs, either animal feed, a cow that produces 2 kilos today, if that cow has access to food in 1 month, it can double the production. So agriculture has the highest or the quickest return on any investment. That's number one. And that's why we went for agriculture. This is an economy that requires quick action. Agriculture gives us that, number one. Number two, agriculture has the highest multiplier effect on all the other sectors, on job creation, on agro-processing, on every other step, including even the amount of jobs you can create in that sector. So that is why we chose agriculture as the place to begin with. And number three is because agriculture, Kenya is the most competitive, agriculture is the most competitive sector in our country. So it is the place where we have a competitive advantage. So investing in agriculture, you don't have to look for farmers, they're already there. You don't have to look for the land, it's already there. You don't have to look for the animals. We already have the third largest herd in the continent of Africa. So why we think that is the place to begin is because of quick returns. And let me say this. If you go back to the Big Four, for example, agriculture was a major component of the Big Four, and it was our idea then. Unfortunately, we lost the opportunity to implement the Big Four for reasons every Kenyan knows. And that is the reason why in 2018, before the handshake, the price of unga was at 90 shillings. Today is 230 going 250. Why? Because we dropped the ball. What happened? We were supposed to have a fertilizer subsidy program, which I had started initially when I was Minister for Agriculture, and it had run for almost 10 years. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, the fertilizer subsidy program was dropped. And if you don't support the farmers to produce, it is simple. The scale is supply and demand. When supply goes down, demand goes up, prices go up. And that is where we are.
Lakini mheshimiwa, kwa heshima zote, hata kabla ya handshake, wakulima kutoka Rift Valley, mahala ambapo umetoka, mahala ambapo inasemekana kuwa ni ngome yako ya kisiasa, wamekuwa wakilia. Gharama ya uzalishaji iko juu. Sasa hivi wanalia gharama ya mbolea iko juu. Unapata kwamba kila mwaka nenda mwaka rudi, hata kabla ya handshake walikuwa wakisema kwamba wanalima kwa kutumia pesa nyingi na kuuza inakuwa kwamba gunia ya kilo 90 wanauza kwa shilingi 2,000. 2,500, wanaona kwamba hawana faida. Wewe ni mkulima na unaelewa kabisa eneo hili ambalo ni kitovu cha kilimo humo nchini. Ndio unalaumu handshake, lakini malalamiko haya yamekuwepo tangu jadi. Je, wewe kama kiongozi umefanya nini hata kabla ya kuahidi wa Kenya kile ambacho utafanya baada ya kuteuliwa endapo utafaulu?
Let me give you statistics because numbers don't lie. In 2018, a bag of fertilizer was selling for 2,800. It's now selling for 6,500. In 2018, we were selling maize to our granaries at 2,500. A bag of maize today in Eldoret, since you have talked about Eldoret, is 6,500. That's what is translating into the high cost of food. So, and you know, you always have to mitigate between the farmers wanting a better return on one hand and the consumers wanting prices to come down. How do you balance that scale? That is why in our manifesto we have said we need to increase productivity. How do you increase productivity? You support the farmer. You make the farmer more productive. That's why we are saying we will have a fertilizer subsidy program that is going to enhance productivity. Where you're producing 10 bags with good agricultural practice, including what my good brother has said there, making sure that the farmers have quality seeds, and that's what we have said. The farmers have fertilizer, and they have good pesticides. You automatically translate a farmer who is getting 10 bags to 25 bags. So the farmer is happy to sell at 3,000 or 2,500 because on an acre he is making good money, but also it doesn't affect the price to the consumer. So that is where we as Kenya Kwanza are saying productivity, and that's how you enhance productivity. It is simple. There is no magic. There is no miracle. You just need to do things right.
Mr. DP, and as we go also to Michael Ondiala, who's CEO, Agronomy Plus Limited, on what you're talking about improving on produce and empowering the farmer, you're talking about returning the guaranteed minimum return, yeah, for scheduled crops. And the history of that in this country has been poor. And so the concern here becomes that this approach then may result to larger farmers benefiting and being a disproportionate return to them as compared to the consumers, so that Kenya Kwanza then would be seen to prioritize larger farmers who are those in some who support you call dynasties, as opposed to the smaller, lower income earning person who's the hustler that should in essence be supporting. So wouldn't this then in essence go back to the very same thing you're opposed to?
If you read our manifesto, we are very specific. We are targeting out of the farmers that we have, we are targeting 2 million farmers who today, they are farmers, but they are net importers of food. And we have said these farmers, we're going to support the 2 million farmers with a fund that is going to be a fund that's going to be available every year. And we are also going to support them with extension service. In fact, we have costed. How much is it going to cost us to support these 2 million farmers?
How will they be identified, these 2 million farmers?
We have already a data bank. It is with the government. We already have a data bank of all our farmers. We carried out a census of farmers 6 years ago. We already have a data bank of the farmers, and they are identifiable. So these resource-poor farmers who today are net importers of food, we want to make them produce a surplus. And we have agreed that for an acre of land, we're going to spend 15,000 shillings on inputs. And we are going to spend another 12 billion shillings every year on making sure that these farmers have extension services. They are using the latest information on producing. So what are we going to do? We are going to transform a farmer who is producing 5 bags today to produce 15 bags at the very least. So that farmer not only becomes a surplus producer, but he also has money change in his pocket, as much as also producing enough food for us to supply the rest of the country. So when we talk about GMR, These are two things. Number one, we are targeting resource-poor farmers, and we have said where we are going to spend 90 billion shillings in 5 years. And these farmers, in our calculation, they will produce 500 billion shillings in 5 years.
All right, sir.
Our competitors, on the other hand, want to do the same thing. They want to target 2 million people, but they want to spend 700 billion and get nothing in return. So there was a world of a difference. Let me finish with the GMR. The GMR story is different. We want to make sure that every farmer has a guaranteed outcome. We're going to employ mechanisms, contract farming, where a farmer knows that I am going to do this and I am going to earn this ahead of time. We're going to use insurance, which is actually available at the moment. In fact, we are carrying out pilot on insurance, on livestock, on milk production, on production of cereals. So the products on insurance are already there that will guarantee returns for every farmer. All we need to do is to deploy them as government and make sure that our farmers become beneficiaries.
All right, I believe it's time for us to go for our news break. It's 9 o'clock, and Michael Ondiala will be coming to you because it's important, even as you're talking about having these 2 million farmers, that there is clarity on who they are.
Yes.
We may say poor farmers, but we've seen abuses in this country where it's still the cabal, if you would like, of the rich that still end up benefiting. But news always comes first here on KTN News. And I'd like to apologize. We started late. It was to be quite an early start, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, hence the late start. But we are here, and the DP will be with us from 9:15 is when we are promising to return and continue the conversation. Plenty of questions to come through from our audience who have been so gracious with us this evening. So we want to take it back for a quick top stories. This presidential town hall continues shortly.